What is going on, everybody? It is 219 Football here. Come back at you guys with another video. And in today's video, we are going to be doing my first mock draft of draft season for 2025. So mock draft 1.0. I'm going to be doing plenty of mock drafts in the future, all with trades, including this one. We're going to have trades in this. We're going to have a Myles Garrett trade as well, if you want to stay tuned for that. I am sick as well, by the way, so if my voice sounds a little weird. So, Super Bowl officially finished yesterday. I'm recording this the day after. Philadelphia Eagles dominated the Chiefs. I thoroughly enjoyed watching that. Anyways, let's get to the mock draft here. Tennessee Titans at number 1. There are plenty of ways that the Titans can go here. I've heard a lot of reports about what they can do. Either they're going to stick with Will Levis and sign a quarterback in free agency and take best player available, either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. They could just take quarterback at 1, go ahead and take someone like Cam Ward, probably not Shedeur Sanders, but maybe Shedeur Sanders. They could just sign a quarterback in free agency. They could trade out of this pick, but here I'm gonna have them going quarterback. This is not what I would do personally. If it was up to me, I would have gone Travis Hunter. But there are plenty of ways they can go. I'm gonna have them go this way this time. I'm probably gonna explore other options in other mock drafts. But for this one, I'm gonna just have them take Cam Ward number 1 overall. Reason being, you don't always get the number 1 overall pick, and normally you don't want the number 1 overall pick because that means you were the worst team in the NFL. But it's so rare to get the number 1 overall pick. You get your pick of the draft, and if Cam Ward booms, you have a franchise quarterback and your franchise is altered for the next 10 years. Obviously, if he busts, it's bad and you're set back for another 10 years. But I feel like the offense is good enough to where if you throw Cam Ward in there, he's not going to get absolutely annihilated and completely destroyed. So I think going quarterback here is definitely a pretty good option as well. I know they've come out and said, like, we're not going to pass up on a generational player if he's there. I don't know if you count Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter as generational. Travis Hunter would be more the generational style prospect, in my opinion. But I've seen a lot of people have them going just Abdul Carter. But yeah, I have them going Cam Ward at number 1 overall, getting their hopeful quarterback in the future. The Browns at number 2. I feel like there's a little less options on the table here for the Cleveland. I think you have 2 options. One is take quarterback, and the other is take Abdul Carter. I'm planning on coming out with a video about the whole Brown situation, especially with the Myles Garrett trade here in the near future, so be sure to like and subscribe for that. But Cleveland, when I really think about this, it really just doesn't become much of a question to me, and you're taking Abdul Carter here. I would not touch quarterback at number 2 if I'm the Cleveland Browns. Your offensive line was horrible last year, just downright awful in every sense of the word, and I really don't trust putting a quarterback behind that, especially a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, who has struggled with the Colorado offensive line being as bad as it was. I don't know if he would be built to play behind another bad offensive line, especially in the NFL, when he still needs to clean up some of his pocket stuff and holding onto the ball. But if you take Abdul Carter, especially if you're going to end up trading Myles Garrett, which we'll get to later, if you end up trading Myles Garrett, you replace him immediately with Abdul Carter, who could be an elite edge rusher right away. And I think you start by just taking after the Lions and building through the trenches and getting your D-line back up to par, and then retooling your O-line maybe in free agency and in later rounds as well. Next up, the New York Giants, and I'm taking quarterback for them here. We're going Shedeur Sanders. They've been linked to Shedeur for quite a while. They had a lot of connections to him at the Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl and all that stuff. And it really, every arrow is pointing to them taking Shedeur Sanders at 3, especially when you consider the jobs at stake. Daboll and Joe Schoen both are on the hot seat right now, and they need to make a splash, so they're going to try and go get their quarterback of the future and make a push for the playoffs this year to save their jobs. So I don't think there's really any other option for the Giants here other than quarterback. If Cam Ward's on the board, I think you take Cam Ward, but since he's not on the board, they've had a lot of connections to Shedeur Sanders, I think they take Shedeur Sanders. and I don't think it's really a question. All right, Patriots at 4. Pretty easy. You take the best player in the entire draft here at number 4. He could play wide receiver for you if you need. I think sticking him at corner opposite Christian Gonzalez would be an elite tandem on that defense, and he can also again play wide receiver sparingly for you, give you some help with Drake May. But yeah, I think taking the best player in the draft is always a good option, and for me, that's Travis Hunter. He is an elite cornerback prospect, and he's a great wide receiver prospect as well. I think him being at corner is probably his best spot in the NFL, and I think him opposite Christian Gonzalez would be in a great tandem, and it should make New England's defense a lot better than it was last year. And then also, if maybe he's not great at corner and you play him at receiver, and guess what? He's a very high floor, high ceiling wide receiver, and you have a playmaker on either side of the ball, whichever side you go. So I don't think you can go wrong with this pick for the Patriots, just taking the best player available. Now the Jaguars at 5. I've seen Mason Graham mocked to them a lot. Like pretty much every mock draft, it's Mason Graham to the Jags, but I'm not going to go Mason Graham here. I like Mason Graham, but I don't know if he's a top 5 player in this draft for me. Obviously, a lot of people seem to think so, but for me, I think defensive line is an issue for the Jags. Their entire defense is. They have a decent bit of issues. Offensive line, defensive line, but their secondary is looking pretty bad. They got Tyson Campbell. Outside of that, not really much. I think you take the best corner on the board still after Hunter, and that's Will Johnson out of Michigan. And he helps shore up your back end and gets you a pretty good tandem at corner in the future. Very high floor player, very smart in zone coverage, pretty good man. Can play a lot of different ways for you and can help out your pass rush by allowing them to get there while you have good coverage downfield. Raiders at 6. I really explored a trade down here, especially teams coming up for, say, Mason Graham or possibly Ted McMillan, but I don't know if I saw a real fit for a team to come up, so I decided that the Raiders were going to stick and pick, and they're going to take Ashton Jeanty here. They have a lot of issues, and yes, Teddarell McMillan's on the board, and their wide receiver room is pretty awful. Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, not much else, but I think giving yourself Ashton Jeanty is going to be a real big help for the offense as well, because your running back group is just as bad as the receiving group, and obviously you need quarterback. Top 2 quarterbacks are off the board. I don't think there's going to be another quarterback that goes in the first round. Not Jalen Milroe, not Jackson Dart. Sorry, not seeing it, especially not at 6. But if you establish a run game for yourself, it can really help out Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew or Sam Darnold or Aaron Rodgers, whoever you have back there. It can really help them out, give them a nice floor, even if you don't have the great wide receivers. If you have a decent run game, then it sets a floor for your offense, and Jeanty can definitely help you get that run game. So Raiders go Jeanty. I could really explore some different options. I really considered Ted McMillan here. I really considered trade down, but I ultimately decided on Jeanty. It gives your offense a really good floor for the next year. Now the Jets at 7. You have Ted McMillan on the board. Maybe Devontae Adams isn't going to be back next year. Mason Graham's on the board. He could be a good pick. But for me here, I'm actually going to go with a different selection. I'm going to go Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State. A lot of people had Brock Bowers going to them last year. They passed on Brock Bowers for offensive lineman. Olu Fashanu has been great. And so this time they take a tight end for, again, whoever they have back there, whoever it may be. Probably not Sam Darnold, but maybe, I don't know, someone else. There's not many good options to draft, obviously, as I've gone over. So I think setting up your future quarterback, whoever that might be, with a really good tight end, a really good receiver on the outside, you have Garrett Wilson still, is going to be really great for when they come in, and you already have a decent offensive line, so it gives them a really nice floor. So I think this is a great pick. It'll give your future quarterback something to work with, and he is a fantastic player. Now, the Carolina Panthers at 8, they also have a lot of different options. Their defense was horrible last year, very bad, but Teddarell McMillan's here. and a lot of people consider him to be the best wide receiver in the draft. Your wide receiver room isn't great. I get it. You have Leggett, Coker stepped up at the end of the year. Adam Thielen was very consistent throughout, but you're not going to have Adam Thielen forever, and we don't know if Coker or Leggett are really big hits. I mean, Coker obviously had a really good stretch, and he was playing better than Leggett, and Leggett really kind of was selling Bryce Young a little short at the end there. But I think if you have a receiver, Ted McMillan, on the board, you have a young quarterback who, although played really fantastic at the second half of last year, you still want him to succeed, and you don't want him to revert back to his previous form. I think you give him the best wide receiver in the draft. A lot of people consider. I still don't know if he's the best wide receiver in the draft. I really like Luther Burden. Obviously, you'll have to wait for my wide receiver rankings to come out. But Ted McMillan, really great wide receiver. Going to give Bryce a really big target to throw to. He loves throwing those outside fades, giving his receivers shots. And Ted McMillan is going to be a really good friend for Bryce Young, and it should help the Carolina Panthers offense be pretty damn good next year. All right, next up at 9, we are going to have our first trade here. The New Orleans Saints are going to move down with the San Francisco 49ers here. I'm not going to go into details with these trades. I'm just going to kind of swap the picks, but it'll probably be a few late round picks, maybe one or two. But I think the Niners are going to come up here, and they are going to steal Will Campbell from the Chicago Bears. Will Campbell is always the pick for the Bears, and the Niners are afraid of the Bears taking a really good tackle. They're going to take Will Campbell, and they're going to stick him at right tackle. Maybe he gets moved over to left tackle again after Trent Williams retires, wherever that is. But Colton McKivitz has to go. Just has to. And say Campbell isn't good at tackle. A lot of people think he's a guard. Probably could end up being a guard. Will Campbell moves inside to guard. Obviously, right here you can see needs guard, tackle, all that. But Will Campbell's a really high floor offensive lineman. I'm not as high on him as a lot of people are, but he gives you a really solid piece there, and you can pass protect for Brock Purdy on that right side now, and don't have Colton McKivitz out there selling your team short. So Will Campbell, first trade up of the draft, just the Niners looking and jumping the Chicago Bears for Will Campbell there. And now the Bears at 10, you got your top pick stolen from you. Let's just say it how it is. They took it right underneath your nose. So the Bears, obviously, you can go a lot of your options here. I've seen Genty a lot. Obviously, Genty is not on the board. He went off the board at 6. I've seen Will Campbell a lot. Will Campbell's not on the board. He went off the board right before you. So I think you look defensive line, offensive line. Offensive line, obviously, was horrendous. Got Caleb killed way more often than it should have. Offensive line has not been the priority of Ryan Poles, even though it really should be. I think he prioritizes it this time to help out his guys, and I think he's going to end up taking Kelvin Banks to play guard. And maybe you even play him at left tackle and you slide Braxton Jones in at guard, whatever. But you can play games, you can go Kelvin Banks or Braxton Jones at tackle or guard. I think Kelvin Banks would be a really good guard. He's really a strong run blocker, and he's got some pass pro deficiencies, but I think he can get those cleaned up. I think he's a pretty solid prospect, and you take him at 10, you play him at guard, and you get Caleb some help on that offensive line. Now, the Saints back up after trading down. They're going to stop the fall of Mason Graham. Mason Graham does not usually fall this far in mock drafts. I just really couldn't find him a place after he went past the Jags. But he gets picked up here by the Saints, who probably would have taken him at 9, or probably could have taken him at 9. They just need to improve their whole team, really. They have a lot of holes on there, and taking Mason Graham helps a little bit, but obviously you have a lot more to do on that team. But building through the defensive line is a really good option. Obviously, you took tackle last year, so your offensive line is getting a little bit better. Still got to improve the offensive line, though, but Mason Graham gives you a really good floor at defensive line to help build your team back up. Now, Dallas, Genty would be the pick here if he was still here, but he is not. So this comes pretty clear to me. They're going to take Burden here. I really did not like their offseason plan last year. They got Dak no help outside of CeeDee Lamb. They just kept him Brandon Cooks and Jalen Tolbert, and obviously didn't really work out. Obviously, Dak got hurt and all that, but even before Dak got hurt, the Cowboys were not looking very good. I think you need another offensive threat out there besides CeeDee Lamb. There are plenty of running backs that you could take later in this draft that are going to be plenty good. So I think taking Burden here is a really good option. I love Luther Burden. Super good after the catch. Gives you a nice dynamic threat out there outside of CeeDee Lamb, with Brandon Cooks probably on his way out soon. Jalen Tolbert is not great, but Luther Burden gives you some stability at wide receiver for the next years. Miami at pick 13. They have a really, really big problem right now, and I really struggle to see the future of the Miami Dolphins if they do not get tougher. Like, they are built on speed, and once the speed is shut down, once they run into a good defensive game plan, they shut down. They can't compete. Obviously, we know the cold weather issues that they've had, and so that's why I'm going to take tackle Josh Simmons out of Ohio State to help build up that offensive line, keep Tua protected. I don't really know if Tua is really the guy that's going to lead you to the promised land, but if you believe he is, you gave him a really big contract, so you're believing in him. You're believing in him. Got to give him a tackle to help protect him. Tyreek Hill looking like he's going to be traded. We'll see. I'm not putting a Tyreek Hill trade in this draft, but we'll see how that situation pans out. If Tyreek Hill is traded, maybe you look to get a receiver, but I still don't think you take receiver even if Tyreek Hill is traded in the first round, because you need a culture change. You need to get tougher, and Josh Simmons helps you do just that. I really, really like Josh Simmons, and I think he's going to be a force at tackle, whether it's left tackle, because Teron Armstead obviously on his way out as well, or right tackle, which has been a revolving door for them. So Josh Simmons' pick for Miami, I think, is going to be really good. Now we're going to do a little Chris Ballard special. He loves to do this. We are going to trade down here for the Indianapolis Colts. Tight end option that you would really like, Tyler Warren, is off the board. You got Colson Loveland as well, but I don't think they're going to take Colson Loveland this high. I think they're going to trade down, and I think that Seattle is going to be a team to come up here. Obviously, no details of this trade, but get some good draft compensation with that trade down for Indy, and I think that they're going to go ahead and take Mike Green here at pick 14 for Seattle. Mike Green, just made a video on him. Go ahead and watch that. Really, really like Mike Green. Super good player. The Seahawks need offensive line help. I get it. You can get offensive lines down the board. I don't think you're going to get this caliber of an edge rusher down the board, and I think they're going to take advantage. They're going to jump the Falcons here, maybe jump the Cardinals, jump the Bengals, and they're going to take Mike Green. Really, really good player, and it's going to help them improve their pass rush a lot. Now, Atlanta, you need to prioritize edge here. Your defense has just not been great. You need edge rusher. You're just not getting it. Matthew Judon, not a good pick for them. I'm going to have them go Shamar Stewart. Really showed out in offseason workouts, Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, and all that. Just put on a show. Freaky traits. He's super athletic. Not a lot of production, but that can be changed. I mean, he has the traits to be an elite edge rusher. He's super strong, super heavy, super quick, just freaky athlete. Just doesn't have the production to back it up yet, but the Falcons think they can turn him into that. They need to get better on the pass rush situation. If Shamar Stewart hits, then their pass rush is going to be good, and they're going to be looking to make the playoffs next year. Arizona at pick 16. Again, a lot of things you need. You need offensive line. You need defensive line. You're getting B.J. Ojolari back on that defensive line, which is nice, but I still don't think it's as good as it could be. Darius Robinson has not played all that great for you. Obviously, you're still waiting for him to break out, but I'm going to go Micah Williams. Really, if you get a good defensive line, it helps your whole team, helps your secondary, helps all that. And Micah Williams is, again, like Shamar Stewart, a freaky edge rusher. We're going 3 edge rushers back to back. Mike Green, Shamar Stewart, Micah Williams. Micah Williams still has to put it all together. Apparently, he played last year hurt, obviously, so he didn't put his full potential out there for teams to see. But yeah, Micah Williams could be a very, very good player for the Cardinals, and they can help their pass rush out a lot. Bengals here, defensive line has been just absolutely just a disaster for them so far. So I'm going to have them going Walter Nolan. You need to get better on run defense and pass defense. I actually had a different pick here. I had them going Jahdae Barron, but I'm going to change that. I'm going to have them go Walter Nolan, just because I kind of forgot how just terrible this defensive line was. So Walter Nolan off the board here to Cincinnati. You need to help Trace Hendrickson out. Your defense was historically bad, so get Joe Burrow some help him out on the defensive side of the ball. He can't do everything himself, so we're gonna go defensive line here. Walter Nolan to the Cincinnati Bengals. Next up on the clock, we're gonna have the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts have been mocked Tyler Warren a lot. I've seen Tyler Warren. I've seen Malachi Starks a lot. I haven't really seen too much other than that. But obviously here, Tyler Warren is off the board. Malachi Starks is still on the board. But I think for the Colts, their focus has to be Anthony Richardson. And that's why I'm going to have them take Colston Loveland here at 18. They probably could have taken him at 14 if they wanted to. Trade down, get some picks. Take him at 18. I really think that Anthony Richardson still can be the franchise guy, but they just have to give him everything and see what he can work with in year 3. Hopefully he can stay healthy for the whole season this time. Colston Loveland, really good receiving tight end. I've seen him mocked higher. I've seen him mocked way lower. Daniel Jeremiah is very high on him, so I probably need to get in the film on him, but very good receiving threat. Should be really good for Anthony Richardson to work with, and definitely a prove a year for AR, and having Colston Loveland in the building will make it a lot easier for him to work the offense next year. Tampa Bay at 19. They need a lot of things on defense. Defense was really kind of holding them back this year. So I am going to have them going defense here, but it's not going to be any of these top players. I'm actually going to have them going, if we can find him, Jalen Walker out of Georgia. I know he's ranked really low, but in reality, he has a really good chance to go first round. Super athletic, can play on the edge or can play linebacker. Fortunately, can't play, DB, but can play edge or linebacker. A lot of people think he's best on the edge. Some people think he's best as an off-ball linebacker. I think he's best as what he played Georgia, a little bit of both. He's going to be a really good blitzing threat as well. But yeah, on the edge, he gives you some juice. He's super athletic. Just flies around the field and makes plays from what I've seen. He's just an all-around playmaker at the linebacker position, and he has a multitude of different spots. He's pretty good in coverage, but he is a sure tackler, and can play on the edge, strong, fast, highly athletic, and can be a really good fit at linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 19, and it gives them a much-needed playmaker in that linebacking core and can help out their defense for the next season. All right, Denver Broncos at pick 20. A lot of mocks have them going tight end here. I've seen some going receiver and like Emeka Egbuka, but mostly it's been Colston Loveland to the Denver Broncos. But I'm going to have them going wide receiver here, but it's not going to be Emeka Egbuka. It's actually going to be Matthew Golden, the wide receiver out of Texas. I think that Matthew Golden is a very high floor receiver. He's a really good route runner, catches everything. Size, he's about medium. He's a pretty good athlete. Nothing special, but very solid athletically wise. And the Broncos just need another sure wide receiver outside of Courtland Sutton. Devon Vele was very good as a rookie, but of course he was not like stellar. And then Marvin Mims is not really somebody you want getting a lot of your snaps. He made some plays, but he's a wide receiver 4, and that's what he is. But Matthew Golden can be a really good number 2 outside of Courtland Sutton, who's been great. And then the Broncos are going to look to upgrade tight end either later in the draft or maybe in free agency. But yeah, Matthew Golden to the Broncos, I think makes a lot of sense. And next up with the Steelers, I'm going to be taking a pretty chalk pick here. Everyone has this happening. Emeka Egbuka to the Steelers just makes too much sense. They need a slot wide receiver out, and they need somebody outside of George Pickens for either Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, whoever to throw the ball to. Probably going to be Russell Wilson, but obviously there's no quarterback available. They're not taking a quarterback. But Egbuka, like Matthew Golden, a very high floor wide receiver, and can be very good in that Steelers offense, which desperately needs a receiver outside of George Pickens right now, as nobody has really stepped up. And now we're going to have another trade. The Chargers are going to move down with the Baltimore Ravens here. Obviously, no trade details, so we're just going to swap the picks. And so the Ravens trade up, but for who? It's going to be for a defensive back, and it's going to be Malaki Starks. A lot of people think Malaki Starks is one of the best players in this draft, but the NFL does not value safety super highly, so Malaki Starks is going to drop a little bit here. This is very, very similar to what happened a few years ago when they took Kyle Hamilton. A lot of people thought Kyle Hamilton was one of the best players in the draft. Hamilton falls, and they nab him up. Obviously, he didn't fall this far, I believe, but Malaki Starks, great player, makes plays, super athletic, high floor player, and they can replace Marcus Williams in the back end, who is kind of a liability this year. Maybe not replace him, but ease Starks into the role as Marcus Williams probably gets eased out as he's getting older and he's getting less reliable in the back end. Now, Green Bay at 23 have a lot of options. Wide receiver is a big need. It really showed in the playoff game, the lack of the number one wide receiver, but you really don't have a receiver worth taking here, in my opinion. I mean, maybe Jaden Higgins could be a number one wide receiver for you, but I don't know. I like Io Manor maybe, but again, there's some risk to these guys. That's why they're not ranked super highly on this PFF board. They could go edge. The lack of pass rush really showed against that Eagles team. James Pierce is sitting here. Jack Sawyer's sitting here. Nick Scorton. They could go interior defensive line. Kenneth Grant, Tyleik Williams. But I'm going to have them going none of those. They will be going defense, though, but I'm going to have them going corner. Jahdae Barron out of Texas. He has been getting a lot of hype recently, and I've been seeing him going way higher. I've been seeing him go into the Colts at 14. I've been seeing him go as high as like 11, as high as that. I'm not quite there on Jahdae Barron yet, but I just do think he's a very high floor player and can be a really good player with the Green Bay Packers. Can be inside, outside. He has good flexibility and very high floor player, good in zone, pretty good man. But yeah, Jahdae Barron to the Packers. They upgrade their secondary, get Eric Stokes out of there. Jair Alexander might not be around for forever. We don't really know. But yeah, they get a new rookie corner and look to upgrade the other positions elsewhere. Next up, Minnesota, the division mate of the Green Bay Packers. They had a really disappointing end of the season. Lost 2 must-win games. Sam Darnold did not play well. Looks like he's not going to be back with the team. Looks like it's going to be J.J. McCarthy leading the Purple People Eaters next season. So they are going to look to help him out here, and they are going to look to take Gray Zabel to play interior offensive line for them, probably guard. Gray Zabel, a really big riser from the Senior Bowl. Put out a lot of good tape, and he's getting a lot of hype right now. He goes in the first round in this mock to the Minnesota Vikings, who their offensive line needed some tweaking. Last year, it was not perfect, especially in those last parts of the year. And if you have a first-year starting quarterback, not a rookie, but first year as a starting quarterback coming in, who had a pretty good offensive line at Michigan, you want him to be comfortable in that pocket and not have him break down. So Gray Zabel helps you with that. And then Houston, a lot of things they can go here. They're probably losing Stephon Diggs to free agency, so wide receiver is an option. But I'm going to look to protect CJ Stroud. He was getting mauled all season long, and they're going to take Tyler Bookey here, the guard out of Alabama. Just Stroud took a step back, but I don't really think it was mostly Stroud. I think it was the play calling, and the entire offense really as a whole took a step back. Just could not pass protect at all, especially on the interior. So Tyler Booker is the pick here to help shore up that interior and help make sure that CJ Stroud does not fall apart, as you want him looking like rookie form here on out. But second year wasn't horrible, but he definitely took a step back. Want to keep him in check, want to keep him protected. Tyler Booker helps you do that out of Alabama. So good pick there for the Texans. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Rams. I'm going to have them going tackle here. They are probably losing Stafford here, either this year possibly or next season. But Stafford looks to be on the way out, so in his final season, you want to keep him protected. I'm going to have him taking Armand Membou out of Missouri. I have a very high grade on Membou. I really like him. Surefire pass protector, but not the strongest, so probably some strength concerns for the NFL there. So he drops a little bit here, but he's a super high floor player and can be a stellar pass protector for the Los Angeles Rams. They could play him left tackle, right tackle. They could even put him at guard, as he is a bit shorter if they need to put him at guard. But I'm taking him here probably to move over to play left tackle. We saw last year's draft a lot of right tackles move over to play left tackle, and it worked out for the most part. So I think Armand Membou is somebody that could definitely do that and protect Stafford's blind side in his final season. Next up, we have the Chargers, who traded down originally from pick 22, and the reason why is I'm having them going Omarion Hampton, running back out of North Carolina. You know what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. He wants to pound the rock. He wants to run the ball. He's built up a pretty good offensive line, and getting Omarion Hampton, a really good running back. I know J.K. Dobbins had some pretty good games, but he's not the running back of the future for this team. I believe Hampton is. I really, really like Omarion Hampton. Great as a speed and a power back. He can sit you down, and he can run around you. He's super fast, explosive. Going to be really good and going to help out Herbert so he doesn't have to try and do everything like he tried to do in the playoffs and failed miserably. Hopefully you don't get that Justin Herbert ever again, but having a really good run game to back it up with a really good running back will definitely help. And Omarion Hampton is a playmaker, and this offense desperately needs playmakers. Now, this is where we are going to have the Myles Garrett trade. Myles Garrett to the Cleveland Browns. They're probably going to give them a few first-round picks, at least. Probably this one and next year, and maybe a second-round pick as well. So as we know, the Browns already took Abdul Carter, so I'm going to continue building through the trenches, and I'm going to have them taking tackle Josh Conerly out of Oregon. Super good player. Outside of the one rep against Mike Green, Josh Conerly was reportedly super good at the Senior Bowl. Very high floor player again. Could be great at the tackle spot to help protect whoever's back there quarterbacking your team, and hopefully can protect your future quarterback in the years to come. So building through the trenches here for the Browns, I think, is going to be good, as their team's just kind of falling apart and they really just desperately need a rebuild. Next up, the Commanders, a really big shock for everyone this NFL season. I thought they were going to be horrible. A lot of people thought they were going to be horrible. Jayden Daniels comes out, lights the league on fire. Offense was super good. You want to protect him a little better, but I don't think there's any linemen on the board right now that I believe are going to be super valuable to the Commanders right now. I'm actually going to have them going James Pierce out of Tennessee to help out that pass rush, which was not horrible, but can definitely get better. And James Pierce, an explosive edge rusher out of Tennessee. A lot of people project him going really higher, but a few... Daniel Jeremiah specifically, but a few people have said that maybe the NFL is not going to be as high on him. Big strength concerns with James Pierce, but I think he definitely improved his strength from last season a lot. But super explosive edge rusher, but kind of a one-trick pony right now. Might not have as much value in the NFL, but I think he's going to be a pretty good player for the Commanders. And they help out their defense, which was not great last year. Dan Quinn was... Respect to Dan Quinn, he did a really good job with what he had. There was not a lot of talent on that defense, so he gets some here, and hopefully they can improve next season. All right, number 30, we have the Buffalo Bills. They are also going to look to upgrade defense, but are they going to go linebacker, defensive line, corner? I think they're going to go defensive line. I'm going to have them taking Michigan's Kenneth Grant. Fun fact, Kenneth Grant played against him in high school. I mean, I didn't personally play against him. I was a sophomore at the time, so I was on the sidelines. But Kenneth Grant single-handedly wrecked that game. Let's just say that. And has been wrecking games since then. Went to Michigan, had a great career there, and he's a good run defender, pretty good in pass pro, but he's really a great run defender, and that run defense for the Bills can definitely be better. So they take Kenneth Grant to help out that defensive line. I think the receiver... Maybe they can use another one. Matt Collins probably getting a little too much playing time, but you still have Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir. Matt Collins is not bad as well. Curtis Samuel's there. He's not really a big factor, but you're really looking to develop Keon Coleman, and obviously Khalil Shakir is always going to be a surefire target for Josh Allen. Now the Chiefs, I really just don't think this can be anything but tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. So obviously I'm going to take that. But who is it going to be? I'm going to have it be Ariante Ursary out of Minnesota. Ursary kind of fell off this season. I don't really have too high of a grade on him, but he did all right at the Senior Bowl, and he definitely has a lot of potential. He's super big, super strong, but needs to improve a lot. But the Chiefs don't have many options here, and they need to go tackle because that Super Bowl performance was very pitiful from their offensive line when they faced a defensive line like the Eagles. Mahomes just running for his life out there. But Ursary, good pick for the Chiefs. Can't go anything but tackle here, in my opinion, and they take a pretty good one. Now, the defending Super Bowl champs, Philadelphia Eagles, on the board here at 32. There's a lot of options that they have here. Honestly, it's kind of just like, what do you want? Because they don't really have too many needs right now. Like, obviously, they're probably going to lose Milton Williams. So, and Josh Sweat could always be upgraded, but Josh Sweat is always still a good player in his own right. But you could definitely upgrade on that defensive line, especially with Milton Williams leaving. You could look to replace him, and that's what I'm going to do. So you look on the defensive line, and we're going to take Derek Harmon out of Oregon. Very high floor player. Still haven't gotten into him yet, but he's receiving a lot of hype from a lot of people related to the draft content. So we're going to have him going in the first round here, sneaking in at 32 to help replace Milton Williams on that defensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles. So that is my mock draft 1.0. Tell me what you think in the comments. There will be more mock drafts to come for sure, and obviously this is very early in the draft process, so most of this is probably not going to happen, but it's fun to think about. Got a few good picks in here, in my opinion, and I think that I did pretty good here, getting the best fit for each team. So let me know what you think. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.